Welcome to Lantern and Olive. Tonight, a calm retelling from Ithaca, told softly, so you can drift off whenever you like. Settle in now, wherever you are. Let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders drop. The fire is low, its embers glowing warm and steady. Outside, the wind moves gently through olive leaves, carrying the scent of wild thyme from the hills. The sea whispers in the distance, its rhythm as old as sleep itself. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember. Only this story, unfolding slowly, like waves finding their way to shore. And so we begin. The palace of the Phaeacians rose before Odysseus in the fading light, its walls gleaming with a beauty that seemed almost magical. Gardens surrounded it, where fruits hung ripe in every season, where flowers bloomed year-round, where streams of clear water ran through channels of silver and gold. It was a place of peace and plenty, protected by the gods from the troubles that plagued the wider world. He paused at the threshold, gathering his courage. The princess had told him to seek out the queen, to appeal to her wisdom and compassion. He had faced greater trials than this, he reminded himself. He had stood before kings and warriors, had argued with gods and monsters. Surely he could present himself to a queen known for her kindness. He entered the great hall, and his breath caught at the splendor that greeted him. Pillars of bronze rose to a ceiling lost in shadow. Tapestries of unimaginable beauty hung on every wall. Torches burned with light that seemed brighter than ordinary flame, casting no smoke, leaving no mark. And seated on carved thrones at the far end of the hall were the king and queen of this remarkable land. The traveler walked forward slowly, aware of the eyes upon him, the courtiers and nobles who watched this stranger approach their rulers. The air smelled of cedar smoke and honey from the evening lamps. When he reached the throne, he did as the princess had instructed. He knelt before the queen, clasped her knees in the gesture of a suppliant, and spoke from his heart. "Queen Arete," he said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. "I come to you as a man blessed by the gods and cursed by them in equal measure. I have wandered for many years, seeking the home I lost, the family I love. I ask only for your help in reaching the shores of my own land. Whatever kindness you show me, the gods will repay 1,000-fold." The queen looked down at him with eyes that seemed to see more than the surface of things. She saw his weariness, his dignity, the noble bearing that no hardship could strip away. And she saw something else, something that made her lean forward with interest. "Those clothes you wear," she said quietly. "I recognize them. They were woven in this palace, by these hands. Tell me how they came to you." He explained about the princess, about how she had found him on the beach and shown him kindness, how she had given him clothing and directed him here. He spoke with honesty and gratitude, leaving nothing out, presenting himself as he was, a weary traveler, dependent on the mercy of strangers. The king, Alcinous, had been listening in silence. Now he spoke, his voice warm with welcome. "Rise, stranger. You have found your way to a house that honors the laws of hospitality above all else. Whatever help we can give, we will give gladly. But first, you must rest and eat. Tomorrow will be time enough for stories and plans. A place was made for him at the king's own table. Servants brought food and wine, the finest the palace could offer, and he ate with an appetite sharpened by days of privation. The hall buzzed with conversation around him, but no one pressed him with questions. They understood that some things could wait, that a man who had been through what he had clearly been through needed time to recover before he could speak of it. As the evening wore on and the feasting wound down, the king turned to his guest with curiosity in his eyes. "You have not told us your name, stranger," he said. "You have not told us where you come from or where you are bound. When you are ready, we would hear your story, but only when you are ready." He nodded, grateful for the consideration. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow I will tell you everything. Tonight, I can think only of rest." A chamber was prepared for him, as fine as any he had seen in the greatest palaces of Greece. The bed was soft, the linens fresh, the air scented with flowers from the magical gardens. The wanderer lay down and felt the tension of years begin to ease from his body. He was safe. He was warm. He was among people who meant him no harm. Sleep came quickly, a deep and dreamless rest that his body deeply needed. The sounds of the palace settling for the night filtered through the walls, peaceful and ordinary. The sounds of a household at ease with itself and the world. When morning came, he woke refreshed in a way he had not felt since leaving Calypso's island. He washed and dressed in fresh clothes that had been laid out for him, and made his way back to the great hall where breakfast was being served. The king and queen greeted him warmly, and he took his place at their table once more. The food was delicious, the company pleasant, and for a time he simply enjoyed the experience of being a guest in a house of peace. But eventually, the meal ended, and he knew he must fulfill his promise. The court gathered around, settling into seats and cushions, preparing to listen to the story of the stranger who had washed up on their shore. He took a deep breath and began. He told them of Troy, of the 10 years of war, of the wooden horse that had finally brought the city down. He told them of the victory celebrations, the loading of treasure, the setting sail for home with hearts full of hope. His voice was calm, measured. The voice of a man who had told this story to himself so many times that the words came without effort. But as he continued, as he spoke of the troubles that followed, his voice took on a different quality. He told of the Cicones who had met them on the beach, of the storm that had driven them off course, of the strange lands and stranger creatures they had encountered. He told of the lotus eaters, whose food brought forgetting, and of the narrow escape that had left them shaken but intact. The hearth fire burned low, and the scent of wine and olive oil hung in the still air. The court listened in rapt attention, hanging on every word. These were tales beyond their experience, adventures that made their peaceful lives seem small by comparison. But there was no envy in their faces, only wonder, only sympathy for the man who had endured so much. The telling took most of the day. He spoke of giants and witches, of the land of the dead and the monsters that guarded the straits. He spoke of shipwrecks and escapes, of companions lost and chances missed. And finally, he spoke of Calypso's island, of the 7 years of gentle captivity, of the longing that had never faded, and the hope that had never died. When he finished, the hall was silent. The queen was weeping softly, moved by the depth of suffering she had heard. The king sat in thoughtful silence, his mind already turning to how he could help this remarkable man. "We will take you home," Alcinous said at last. "Our ships are the fastest in the world, guided by magic that needs no charts or stars. Tell us where Ithaca lies, and we will have you there before the moon rises tomorrow." He felt tears spring to his eyes, tears of gratitude and relief that he did not try to hide. He had traveled so far, suffered so much, and now, at last, the end was in sight. These kind strangers, these people he had never met before, were offering him the gift he had sought for 20 years. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart." The evening was spent in celebration in honor of the guest who would soon depart. Music filled the hall, and bards sang songs of heroes and homecomings, of love that endured and hope that never failed. The wanderer listened with a full heart, already seeing in his mind the shores of Ithaca, the faces of those he loved, the halls of his fathers waiting to receive him. That night, he slept deeply again, but this time his dreams were sweet. He dreamed of Penelope, of Telemachus, of the home that had held his place through all the years of absence. He dreamed of reunion and reconciliation, of peace after endless struggle. And when morning came, a ship was waiting in the harbor, crewed by the finest sailors of the Phaeacians, ready to carry him home. He boarded with gifts from the king piled around him, treasures that would restore his fortune and prove his identity to any who doubted. He settled into a comfortable spot, wrapped in soft blankets, and felt the ship begin to move. The harbor fell away, the palace growing small, the island receding into the distance. And the wanderer, lulled by the gentle motion of the magical ship, closed his eyes and let sleep claim him once more. When he woke, he would be home. The wandering would be over. The long journey would reach its end. The ship sailed on through waters smooth as glass, carrying the sleeping traveler toward the destination that had seemed so far away for so long. And he slept, peaceful at last, dreaming of olive groves and familiar shores, dreaming of the love that waited for him on the other side of the wine-dark sea. And so the story rests for now. The fire has settled to embers. The wind has grown still. Somewhere the sea continues its ancient song, steady as breathing, patient as sleep. Let yourself drift. Let yourself rest. The story will be here when you return.